right, so ready?
Yep.
All right, so what's up, everybody? Thanks for clicking this video. Thanks for tuning into my channel. My name's Simon Hill, Black American from Louisiana, coming to you live with another movie review. This is episode 9 of me and this lovely lady who will introduce herself this time.
Aw. Hi, everyone. I'm Simon's wife. I'm AKDI from Turkey, and I love movies.
There we go. So this one I know for a fact is going to get like 2 views, but I don't care. I don't care. I don't care that nobody will watch this video because I've always wanted to watch this movie, but I never had time to do it because I heard it was a classic. I heard it's one of Eddie Murphy's best movies, and I think there's a lot of interesting undertones and themes in it. So we're going to be talking about the 1983 film Trading Places, starring Eddie Murphy, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Dan Aykroyd. And I enjoyed the movie overall. It wasn't laugh out loud funny, though there were some parts that did have me like dying a bit. Mostly just the racist humor, though. But what was
Mm.
your overall experience watching this movie? We just finished it, by the way.
I thought it was cute. Yeah, like there were some racist parts. Obviously, I think it's from 1983. So yeah, you kind of expect that, I guess, which is sad, but still. But overall, like I enjoyed it. Like it was kind of like a cute comedy, I
Yeah.
guess.
You know what I was thinking the entire time? Like I was thinking like this movie is like a good setup, or maybe it gave some inspiration for Eddie Murphy to do Coming to America, because the opening scene is like very Coming to America. Like,
Hmm.
Dan Aykroyd's character, Winthrop, wakes up in this mansion. He's waited to at his every beck and call, breakfast in bed, treated like a king on earth, makes, tons of money in like matters of minutes. And it reminded me of like the opening scene of Coming to America, but just totally different. African prince wakes up, the royal penis is cleaned, Your Highness. That's what I was thinking like during the beginning of it. But what did you see any comparisons between this and Coming to America?
Yeah, I guess like the whole, you're rich and then you sort of like dive into something else that's not like your usual standards. That's kind of like the same theme, I guess. So yeah, like Eddie Murphy, like might have been inspired from this. I can see that.
Yeah. And another thing I was thinking, it was like, you know what? Like, there's a thing in Hollywood where they believe that, only one black comedian can be the star at any given time. So, like, right now, or at least for the past, like, 10 years, Kevin Hart has been that guy. He's the one who's doing all the major movies, all the big blockbusters and stuff like that. And I was thinking the entire time watching this, like, okay, this is Eddie basically doing a Kevin Hart back then. Or if you could look at it backwards, like, Kevin Hart is doing what Eddie did, 40 years ago and stuff like that. And I was
Yeah.
like, if you take the same screenplay, the same script could have worked today, and you could have plugged Kevin Hart in it, and it would have been almost the same exact movie.
Yeah, definitely. I think there are some similarities. I feel like Kevin Hart also probably got inspired by Eddie Murphy at some point in his career. But honestly, like, I don't think, not to bash Kevin Hart, I think he's a good actor, but not to bash him again, but I do think Eddie Murphy is a better actor. And
Hmm.
also, like, overall, his movies are kind of better, like a bit more original, I guess. Or maybe that's because Kevin Hart did like thousands of movies in the last five
Are you saying
years.
Kevin Hart got better movies than Eddie Murphy?
No, I'm saying the reverse. I'm saying Eddie
Oh,
Murphy got better movies than Kevin Hart.
okay. Sorry. By the way, everybody who's listening, I'm a bit tipsy. It's about 4 a.m. over here in Budapest. I just did a lot of work. Took a little sippy sip, so I'm nice right now. But
I'm nice
I think,
too.
yeah, we both nice right now. But I'll say this: I think the difference between Kevin Hart and Eddie Murphy's movie catalog is that Eddie Murphy has classic comedies. Coming to America, Harlem Nights. Some would even say like Nutty Professor. He was in
Hmm.
Shrek. You get what I'm saying? Like Eddie Murphy over his career made at least a few classic comedies.
Yeah.
And Kevin Hart, I would say his only classic, or at least really good one, is Get Hard. I don't know if you've ever saw that with Will Ferrell.
No, I didn't. I didn't. But I just think like actually the Professor Nutty, right?
Nutty
Uh,
Professor.
Nutty Professor. That I think that was the first movie of Eddie Murphy that I've seen, or maybe it was like this movie called A Thousand Words, which is kind of like a comedy and a rom com.
Mm,
And I used to have like a CD of it, and then I used to like watch it all the time.
mm.
And yeah, I just think like also Eddie Murphy's movies have a bit more like depth when it comes to the themes and the meanings.
Mhm.
And Kevin Hart's movies are a bit more just like, for just the entertainment. They don't have really like deeper themes, I feel like.
He did do that dramatic movie that we watched. I forgot the name, but it's when the wife dies and Kevin Hart has to become a single father to his
Mhm.
daughter. If you remember that,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
feel
I
like Eddie's done
guess.
a drama. I don't think Eddie ever did it like a full drama. You know?
I don't know. I've never seen him in a drama, but maybe he did.
Yeah. And by the way, Kevin Hart's movie Get Hard is very similar to Trading Places. Like Will Ferrell plays this white guy who goes to jail, or he's about to go to jail. So he finds the first black person he can, because obviously black people know about jail. And Kevin Hart has never been to jail, but he pretends to know about jail to pretend to get this rich white man to pay him to get ready to go to prison. So it's kind of really similar to this idea in Trading Places.
Okay. I've
Yeah.
never seen that.
But yeah, another thing I thought about while we were watching this movie, I was like, yo, did Eddie get his teeth done? Because his grill is fucked up. Yo, his grill looked like shark teeth.
Well,
Eddie
I didn't
Murphy's teeth,
realize that.
dog, his teeth look horrible in this movie, man. I'm like, he got some money, he got some. Yeah, Eddie Murphy was Eddie Murphy gave inspiration to Cardi B.
Wow.
Went and fixed my teeth. Hope you hoes know it wasn't cheap.
I mean, his teeth looks normal, just like his front two teeth look a bit like it has gap, but other than that, it looks normal. I don't know.
Man, Eddie Murphy looked like he flossed with jump rope.
Wow.
Man, cars could drive through that front gap.
No, this is an Eddie Murphy loving channel. We don't bash him.
I love Eddie Murphy, man. I love Eddie Murphy. I just had to
Yeah.
say that because I was like, nobody talked about this.
I
Nobody.
don't I don't see it, honestly. I don't see it, Simon.
Okay, I'll leave it alone then. But yo, all right, let's get into the story. So, Trading Places basically is a movie about this very rich white man. His name is Winthrop, and he's a very high-powered trader at this brokerage for commodities in a historic, prestigious trading firm in Philadelphia. And he lives in luxury, like we described it at the beginning of this video. He wakes up, his butler brings him breakfast in bed, mega mansion. He's reading the newspaper while he gets his shave from his waiter, personal barber, and he's reading the news, and he's like, "Yep, corn up, lead down, pork bellies just right." It's like it's very funny to be trading commodities, and like your number one commodity is like bacon, as if you can make a ton of money on that. But I think that's a part of the movie that shows like the absurdity. Like there's the comedy in the movie, but then there's the absurdity of people being able to get mega rich just buying and selling pieces of paper that say they own something. You get what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah. I mean, I think I don't know. I'm always like so confused on how like the, stock market works and all that stuff. I can never understand no matter how much like I watch movies about it and stuff like that. But like I think that used to be like something like, just putting your money into stock market like on bacon and orange juice and coffee and stuff like that. I feel
No,
like
that's
that used to be something of the past.
no, that's
And
still a
now it's
real
just
thing.
like I know it's a real thing, but I feel like those things are kind of locked up now, and now people bet on like electronic stuff, like websites or apps and stuff
Or
like
like
that.
cryptocurrency and stuff like that.
Yeah, like or I don't know, like stocks on Google or like just bigger brands like Nike or Coca-Cola and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, the commodities market is huge. I mean, people buying and
Yeah.
selling gold all the time, silver, and real actual commodities like soybeans. One of my students, like his job, how he makes a ton of money that ends up, a little bit in my pocket is what he does is he monitors the price of soybeans and
Hmm.
he buys what he thinks the price of soybeans will be in 6 months or a year and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. Like your job is to like look at soybean stocks.
Yeah. I mean, it is crazy, but if you think about it, so like these commodities have more, how can I say, value than like owning a stock of Microsoft or Nike, you know what I mean? Because people actually need corn, wheat, soybeans, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, Winthrop works at this company, and his bosses are two very old, very white, very racist old men. Their names are Mordecai and Rudolph. Mordecai and
Mortimer.
Mordecai, yeah,
No, Mortimer
Mortimer. Okay, well they sound equally evil.
and Randolph, the Dukes.
Okay,
We
the
can call
Dukes,
them
the
the
Duke
Dukes.
brothers. They're the owners or the inheritors of Duke and Duke, the trading firm in Philadelphia, right? And how they enter the scene is so crazy. Like Winthrop enters the trading house, and everybody says, "Good morning, Mr. Winthrop. Good morning, Mr. Winthrop." But the Dukes wake up in their mega mansion, and they already have their butlers and maids waiting out front, saying, "Good morning, Mr. Duke. Good morning, Mr. Duke," and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It's, it's like they live like kings. Like the movie does a good job of making these people seem like aristocracy. And like for Americans, like seeing aristocracy in our country is like kind of something that makes us sick, because we don't like, people that have all that wealth and live on mega estates and stuff like that. That's why we like, killed the British and like had a revolution. You get what I'm saying?
Right. And then invented capitalism because that's
Exactly.
great.
Exactly, right? I mean, it all comes around, right? You you kill the king to become the emperor.
Exactly.
Mm. So yeah, the Mortimer and Rudolph get in the car, and like they're looking at their computer screens that are inserted in the car, and they're looking at the price of pork bellies, and they're like deciding on whether to sell. Rudolph wants to sell because he's like the greedy one. He's like he's like all about money. He doesn't want to do anything other than make money. And
I love how you say the names wrong.
it's Rudolph. There's Rudolph
Randolph.
and Randolph, equally evil, just as bad. Should I give them nicknames? All right, it's Rudy
We
and Morty.
okay, Morty and Randy.
Morty and Randy.
That's what Valentine did.
Yo, I'm too nice. I'm too nice to be reviewing Trading Places. Why am I reviewing this dusty ass movie?
It's just hard to, remember rich white people's name.
I know,
They're
right?
always like so fancy. Like who's Mortimer? Who names a
Mortimer.
kid Mortimer?
I don't know, man.
I'm having a hard time like just saying that name,
Yeah,
being a non like native English speaker.
it's like you're planning for your kid to like fire somebody unjustly. It's like that kid later is gonna like deduct somebody's pay just for nothing. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like Mortimer is the manager from hell,
Okay.
and Randy
Okay.
is like, and Randy is like the HR guy that calls you into the office just to make you uncomfortable.
And then he asks for a coffee and a donut.
Yeah, yeah. It's like we need to see you in HR, and Randy's waiting there behind the desk, and then he just says, "Hey, Simon, can you just give me a coffee and a donut?" Oh, sure, yeah. Whew.
Okay.
All right.
So
Anyway,
that didn't land. Sorry.
I don't care. I don't care. Listen. All right. So yeah, Morty and Randy have like different philosophies in life because like Morty is all about like science and like the environment and like understanding human nature, and Randy is more like pragmatic and says stuff like it's all in the genes. Like people are successful because of their genes, and like Winthrop is their example of how they look at that. Like Morty looks at Winthrop and says, "Okay, this guy's successful because he had the right schooling, the right environment, and stuff like that." And Randy says, no, like this guy just has the right genes. It's in his blood to be what he is. You get what I'm
Hmm.
saying? What did you think of that? Like when they were talking like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a interesting debate. I honestly, like, obviously I don't believe, like, oh, people are just their genes and stuff like that. I do agree with like Morty on this one, that it kind of like the environment has the bigger power to shape you into what you become
Yeah.
later in life. So yeah.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think a lot of people like have one side or the other that they really think about. You know what I mean? I mean, nowadays most people would say like it's your environment that makes you who you are, but there are still some parts of us that believe that how just like what's in you naturally is going to come out. Like some
Mhm.
people, there are people that still believe some people are more naturally inclined to success. Like they're the ones who are going to make $1 million, even if they were born poor, right?
Yeah. I mean, like, even studying psychology and everything, every topic in psychology begins with, is it environment or is it genetics, basically, like even with anything related to psychology, like personality and all of that.
Hmm.
But it's been kind of decided that it's both of them.
Hmm.
But yeah, like in an issue like becoming a successful businessman, I don't think that's a gene that you can have. So
Yeah.
I would agree with it being like just an environmental circumstance.
I would agree. I would agree mostly. I mean, when we look at Morty and Randy, like these guys obviously are not the brightest. So
Yeah.
obviously they didn't get wealthy because they were extra clever or worked really hard. They just had some luck. They probably inherited their money.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's probably true because they play around with that money. They don't really know like how lucky they are, or like they're not aware of their wealth.
Yeah.
Basically, they give, like, it's one of the beginning scenes. It's like Christmas or something, right, or Thanksgiving or whatever,
Hmm.
and they give their butler $5 like bonus for Christmas when they just like won $300,000 in a bacon bet. So it's like they're insanely stingy and just like you
Yeah.
know
Yeah. What did
not
Randy
that
say?
bright.
Morty said to Randy, he said, "You're so greedy." No, Morty said to Randy, like, "Mother always said you were greedy." And then Randy said, "She said it as a compliment." That was hilarious.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
they're like very shallow, and yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of that, so they make like $300,000 on their way to work. And when they get out of the car, they're met by this homeless veteran who has no legs and who's blind and who's like begging them for money. And he's like, "Please, I went to Vietnam. I lost my legs. I stepped on a mine. Please give me anything." And then Morty and Randy look down and say, "I have no money to give you." It's like, with, and the way they shot that, like how the camera just looked up and you just see this disgusted face look down. It was just
Yeah.
it was so funny, man. And that's how Eddie Murphy came into the movie because Eddie Murphy's playing that, homeless scammer. Like he's just pretending to be handicapped and stuff like that. And so yeah, Eddie's running around New York like harassing people, and the police come and they like pick him up, and he can actually stand now. He pretends that he's been healed and stuff like that. He tries to run down the block, but then another group of police come out in front of him, and so he turns around and he bumps into Winthrop, like the rich white guy who's the manager of the company, when he's leaving to go on a date with his girlfriend. Winthrop is so racist that when Valentine, Eddie Murphy's character, bumps into him and picks up his bag and tries to give it to him, he says, this man's trying to attack me. This man's trying to rob me." And I just love casual racism stuff like that. I just find that stuff so funny, especially when they can like put that in movies like that. Because I don't think they would do that in 2023. Like a white man just being so scared, I don't
Yeah.
think that would happen.
Yeah, definitely. Unless it's a movie about Karens, they're not going to put that on TV
Yeah,
today.
yeah, yeah. I like how like in the older movies, like you can see like the racism here and stuff like that, and
Hmm.
like they're not hiding it. Like it's just like right in front of you. You know what I mean? And like I feel
Yeah.
like nowadays they always try to hide that stuff on camera. They try to make racism seem like it's not so blatant.
Yeah, I mean, I think also like, you know, at that time, obviously, like, there's still racism like today, but at that time it was just more like blatant, and
Hmm.
people really didn't even feel bad about like, saying certain slurs or doing certain things because there wasn't like any awareness around it, and there wasn't like also like social shaming around it either.
Yeah,
So yeah, so I guess like it was kind of like more just out in the open,
yeah.
I
Yeah,
guess.
definitely, definitely, and I think the next scene shows it because, like, okay, Valentine bumps into Winthrop, and the police start chasing Valentine, and Valentine runs into Duke and Duke and runs all over the trading floors, like hiding under tables, like trying to jump into closets, dashing all around the room and stuff like that. And then when he's finally caught, like all the police put guns in his face like that. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just for one black homeless man. But I'm gonna jump ahead because like later, later, Winthrop does like the same thing. He comes into Duke and Duke with a gun, waving it around, and the police just let him go. Did anybody else notice that? Nobody else thought that was strange. Nobody else thought that was not okay.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I guess it was the security, but the same thing should have happened,
Yeah,
honestly.
definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Valentine gets caught by the police. Winthrop is saying, "You tried to rob me," and he's like, "I ain't trying to rob you, man." Like it was very funny how Eddie Murphy was speaking the jive talk. That jive talk was something else. Why did people stop talking like that? That's one of my biggest questions about
Did they?
blackness. Yeah, nobody says jive turkey and man and all that stuff like that. Nobody talks like that.
Well, sir, I'm gonna blame racism.
You think black people just like stop talking like that because like white people imitated it too much?
Yeah, maybe. Or like when they talk like that, people just assumed stuff about them even
Mm.
more.
Yeah, that's probably true. Because like anything we do, like white people start imitating it, and then it becomes less fun.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. I don't know. But yeah, like I don't know. I feel like I find it sincere because it's just sincere.
I don't know anybody that talks like that. And if you notice in Eddie's like newer movies, he doesn't talk like that.
Hmm.
Like in Coming to America 2, any of his new movies, he doesn't do
Yeah.
that. Donkey didn't even talk like that in Shrek. Donkey didn't say, "Oh man, we
No,
can't
no,
cope with you."
no. I love the donkey. I love Shrek.
So yeah, when Valentine's caught, Morty asked him, "You must have came from a broken home. You must have came from the ghetto and been in and out of prison all your life." And
And then he says, "Yeah, my home was broke, but so what?"
and
That was so funny.
my home was broke. So what? And
Like he was like, it wasn't a broken home. It was we were just broke.
yeah, that's deep. I didn't think about that.
I
I
thought
thought,
that was the joke about it.
yeah, we was broke. Okay, yeah, because I guess in Morty's mind, not being broke means a broken home. But
Yeah.
Morty can't imagine living in poverty but still keeping a family and having a structure.
Yeah, or I don't know, or like he has a stereotype of like just black families being broken or something like that,
Yeah.
or because he's like out on the street.
Yeah, but it was never explained how Valentine got homeless to begin with. So he was lying and saying that he went to Vietnam and lost his legs and his eyes and stuff like that. But they never explained why he was on the streets. Maybe he actually was homeless because he went to Vietnam. Like I wish they explained like how Valentine ended up in that
Mhm.
situation because he obviously was intelligent. Because like later in the
Yeah,
movie, it's proven. So something must have happened. You get
I
what I'm
mean,
saying?
I thought that was kind of like a loophole, or I was thinking in my head like, okay, so maybe like how those kind of like homeless guys or like not very rich guys
Hmm.
who kind of just like read whatever they find and then they're kind of smart
Hmm.
and stuff like that. So I was thinking, okay, so maybe like Valentine is like that type of guy. Like he notices stuff. He's like, naturally intelligent. So that's how like he kind of just adapted so easily because it kind of felt like, yeah, like you said, like, I don't know, he went to college and then just ended up being broke on the street or something.
Yeah, like he was just naturally street smart because later on he does prove that he has the ability to make money and think logically and
Hmm.
not be reckless. And
Yeah.
that shows like some development in his character. But yeah, like you said, loophole or plot hole. I wish that was just explained. But Valentine gets taken to jail, and Morty and Randy decide to make a bet. And the way they make the bet is so strange because like they start talking and they get really excited, like awkwardly excited, like aroused excited. Like their faces turn red. So Morty says to Randy, if that young man Valentine is just a product of his environment. And Randy says, "Are you saying that if he had a good home and money and a job, he could be successful?" And Morty's like, "Yeah, he could." I was like, why are they getting like what is grinding their gears right now? What is really pumping the blood up in them? Like it was very strange how they were talking.
Well, I mean, they're rich and they're old. They probably are not very interested in hookers and stuff.
Mm.
And they just like to experiment with like poor people and other people in their lives. Like, I don't know. I don't know if that's like a rich people thing. Like, they just kind of like to see, what the poor is doing and stuff like that.
If we think about it, it's like a common theme. Because think about Saltburn, right? In the
Hmm.
movie Saltburn, like this family regularly just had randos staying in their crib,
Hmm.
right? And they would just sort of like play them off against each other slyly, and not mind what they do in the house, but watch what they do and stuff like that, and gossip about them. If we think about the movie Solo, like the rich people literally kidnapped a bunch of kids and did whatever they wanted to them in the mansion. If we think about the movie Martyrs, rich people would kidnap people once again, put them in their homes, and do whatever to them. So it seems like a common theme that we believe like the rich sort of play with like the rest of humanity and like society.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I would agree a little bit. Like, obviously, I don't want to generalize it, but I do feel like, how can I put this nicely? Or do I really need to be
You
nice
don't
to
need to
rich
be nice to
people?
the rich. Nah, F them mother
Okay,
effers.
so what if I become rich one day?
Uh-huh.
I'm joking.
Hmm.
I do feel like there's a certain pleasure when rich people flaunt their riches to other people who are not as rich as they are, and then they kind of like see the reaction or like the experiment of it all. I
Hmm.
guess
Hmm.
I do think there's like some sort of euphoria that rich people get from that, if
Right.
that makes sense.
I mean, power is something that everybody wants, and money is one of the quickest ways to gain power.
Yeah,
And especially for men at very high levels, once you've bought all the cars, bought the biggest house, have done everything in the world, there's nothing left to do but other than sort of like try to be powerful over other people. That's why, like, eventually all the rich guys go into politics. Trump, you get what I'm saying?
yeah,
If you
and I
have,
don't know.
if you
Also,
have,
like you know how people. Sorry, do you want to say it?
no, no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, how people say, you never really truly do anything like for another person. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's always like a even an unconscious motive that you do it for yourself. Like,
Mm-hmm.
even if you're like a person who's helping orphans or hungry kids and all of that, you kind of at the same time do it for your like own psychological health and a little bit of ego as well.
Right.
Even if that's unconscious, and that's like no true like goodness that you do to people because at the end there's always something that you get out of it, even if it's just like pure self fulfillment.
Yeah, that's really real because if we think about it, all the billionaires in the world like donate lots of money and they have charities and foundations and an organization to try to, make all the kids in Africa learn how to read or, cure cancer in Venezuela, something like that, right? And when we think about it, what these people are really just trying to do is experiment on other people and see what works, see what doesn't. They're putting their money into places to like invest in what they think the outcome will be, just for their own enjoyment. Honestly, you get what I'm saying?
I mean, I wouldn't. Okay, I wouldn't say like spending money on kids' education is an experiment.
I,
But I do agree that it's not solely because they're like angels or anything. Like obviously they get something out of it. Sometimes it's something financial. Sometimes it's about power. Sometimes it's about just like self fulfillment.
I would
But I wouldn't say like it's an experiment.
I would disagree because when, like, for example, when the I don't know, when the Bill Gates Foundation says we want to teach every girl in Pakistan how to read, right? What they're saying really is like the education system that they have in their culture, in their society for women is not, creating the outcomes that we want. We want to create a world where there are more producers and more consumers. And meanwhile, in places like Pakistan or Iran or hell, even parts of Turkey, right? There are
Mm.
places where women aren't educated and they are not becoming producers and consumers. So, that's an untapped market. So let's try to educate them, teach them how to read, teach them they can become lawyers, doctors, engineers, astronauts, whatever. And, let's see the outcome. What happens? You get what I'm saying? So I think education, of course, education is always an experiment because what we teach our kids is like creating different outcomes of what we have in society. If we destroy all the schools now and replace them with like religious schools, we have a society of people who only know how to worship God and read holy texts. If we delete all the schools now and create only engineering schools, now we have kids that can only design bridges and they don't know art, they don't know music. You get what I'm saying? So education
Yeah.
is always an experiment.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like yeah, I guess like I just thought like the type I guess okay, how do I say this? The notion of experiment that first we were talking about is sounded a bit more brutal. So
Mm,
that's why I kind of said like I don't think it's an experiment. But yeah, like I guess in the essence it is an experiment, but not like a malicious one.
mm,
But yeah, like the if we did like everything just to be good to people, all the billionaires would probably should have said is like, okay, so I have like this much money, and I'm gonna divide this between like all the people, and I'll have just like the same money as other people who were poor before or something like that.
right.
Like they would just like
Yeah.
be a normal level of fortune,
Hmm.
have a normal level of fortune, and just like give their money for a better cause. But
Right.
instead, most people, and I'm not excluding myself from this, I'm also like a part of this. Even
Hmm.
though I'm not rich, I still like spend most of my money to myself.
Right.
And yeah, like most people don't do that. It's kind of like I don't know what it is, like maybe it's
Right.
just human nature or something.
No, because like Morty tries to make himself seem like a humanitarian, and he thinks that basically anybody could be rich, and it's all about circumstance, and that's why they do this sort of experiment, right?
Hmm.
And his brother is the exact opposite. People are born into it, and like what you're saying is that if Morty or Randy actually cared about the poor, they would just split up their money and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But what they're supposed to symbolize is like the two main ideas about why there's inequality in the world. Morty says that it's because of environment, and Randy says it's because like people just have bad blood or whatever and stuff
Hmm.
like that. And by the way, Randy said one of the funniest lines in the movie. This was one of the funniest lines I heard in the movie because it was just so blatant. Like when Valentine was like stealing the stuff, Randy said, "Of course he was stealing. He's a Negro. He's a Negro. He's probably been stealing before he could crawl." I just thought that was wild. That was one of
Wow.
the wildest quotes I heard in the movie. Yeah, man,
Yeah.
that
I
was
mean, there
insane.
were kind of like a lot of moments like that, like a good 3 or 4 of them.
A good three or four. We didn't even get to the Dan Aykroyd blackface.
Oh yeah.
We didn't even get there yet. But I hate to stay on the part about Morty and Randy coming up with the idea of doing this experiment on Winthrop and Valentine. But I just had to say that I just got to say this because of my Christian background. My Christian background. Like there's a famous story in the Bible about God taking away everything from one of his favorite people on earth, the prophet
Mhm.
named Job. Job was like God's favorite person. Job always gave thanks, and so God blessed him with a house, many kids, and stuff like that. And so the devil came to God one day and said, "You know what? I could tempt Job away from you." And God said that would never happen. And then the devil said, "Job only worships you because you give him everything. But if you gave him nothing, he would be with me in a minute." Right? So Randolph and Morty doing this experiment reminded me of like that story of God. And I think
Mm.
almost anybody who's Christian could kind of see the similarities. And when they're having Morty and Randy make this experiment and talk about that, when they say, "Oh, Winthrop will be robbing people in a matter of days, as long as we humiliate him, break him, take away everything he has," it's sort of like you're saying to the audience, like, who are our real gods now? The real gods
Mm.
are the big capitalists, our bosses, our managers, the people that we'll never see and who will never have as much money as. And I just couldn't help but see that parallel.
Yeah, that's very deep. And like what this whole story that you said, I'm sure like a lot of like other Christians who know the story like can make that connection also. But it also makes me think like, okay, so like if these two very rich and powerful men can do this to like possibly one of their heirs, they
Hmm.
because they were thinking of giving him the company. and they were like their granddaughter was gonna like marry him and stuff like that. If
Hmm.
they can do this to a guy that they actually like respect, then like what are they doing to like other people? You know what I mean? Not like physically or anything, but if they can just like throw away someone that they're close to like that,
Hmm.
then yeah, like it's like, probably I don't know if this is like a symbol of how rich people see normal people,
Hmm.
but yeah, it's just kind of scary.
Yeah, yeah, they didn't care about Winthrop, even though Winthrop was like their son,
Yeah.
literally about to marry into the family, and they just kicked him out, which felt very cold. But I feel like also maybe they could have built up more about why they wanted to kick Winthrop out. Maybe they just didn't like him. Maybe they thought their daughter or niece would be better with somebody else. I forgot. You get what I'm saying? I
I
wish they could
mean,
have done it more.
I think they really liked him, but it was like, like we said in the beginning, they were probably born into money and they were probably bored or something. So it was like a part of an experiment. Like I don't
Yeah.
think it was any particular hatred toward
Right,
Lewis.
right, right. I mean, I guess it's also like how a lot of these companies now like want to replace workers with like AI or machines and stuff like that. And so like, hey, we could get rid of Winthrop, and we could save an extra $100,000 a year because we can grab any idiot off the street to do Winthrop's job.
Mm.
And
Yeah, I mean, yeah, in the end, they were kind of thinking of like going with, Valentine,
yeah,
which we'll
well, a
get to.
little bit, but he has a big problem.
Yeah, a very big problem.
A
He's not
very,
the right cultural fit.
he's not the right cultural fit. Yeah, there's that. And yeah, I think also it's like it goes to show. Oh, the TV turned on. My bad. I don't know how that happened. All right, where were we in the story? Because we need to get off of the part about these two evil geniuses talking.
Okay, so yeah, they decide to do this experiment and they bet on it, and then Randy bets on like he believes that Dan is like not gonna change, and then Mortimer thinks like Valentine is gonna do great, just as good as Louis, and then they set up this whole plan. I think like they just show us a scene with like Louis and his fiance, and they're like they're both very like rich and stuck up and weirdly elegant and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
yeah, I think they show us a scene there, but after
Hmm.
that they just show like how they're taking down Louis, which
Hmm.
is like they hired this guy. I forgot his name.
I think his name was
Meeks.
Creed. Oh, Meeks.
Beeks, Clarence
Beeks.
Beeks.
Clarence
So
Beeks.
they,
Yeah.
yeah, like they basically hired this like I don't know who he is, spy guy or something, and then yeah, he plants like a stolen money in Lewis's jacket in a meeting with their board, which is composed of like 100 white men
A hundred
that are like
Illuminati members.
I know, like I was like this is gonna be like Eyes Wide Shut. What is happening? These
Yeah.
men are gonna be pegging each other.
Yeah. It was wild.
And yeah, like basically they plan something on him, and then the police comes and takes him. Then he's accused of like embezzlement of the company, and they take him to jail. And that was kind of like a funny scene too, because like Lewis goes down to the police office, like police center, and yeah, he's like, "Do you know who I am?" and all of that, and they're just like, "Just take off your clothes."
Yeah.
And yeah, he's still in like that kind of like fantasy dream that he's a privileged white man who's rich,
Hmm.
and yeah, and then they basically like just build up on that whole thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Louis spends the night in prison. And then yeah, like when he gets out, they hire somebody, the beat guy, I think. He says to like one of the hookers who's just like coming out of jail, he says, "Okay, I'm gonna give you $100, just go and kiss this guy or something." And
Yeah.
then Luis's fiance, Penelope, pays his bail. And then they get out, and Penelope is like, "How can you do this? Like, how can you have drugs on you? How can you stolen money and all that?" And yeah, so this like a prostitute lady comes in who's played by Jamie Lee Curtis. I'm gonna say it. I think she's hot. I don't know if you agree with
Nah.
me.
No. No.
No?
She's like an '80s four.
Wow. I think she has nice tits. Anyway, her character's name is Ophelia. She comes in and she kisses Louis and acts like she knows him and she wants like drugs from him. So Penelope like dumps Louis there, basically.
Let me just jump in real quick. I thought the whole like Winthrop Penelope love story was like so useless, and it made it even worse because the girl who played Penelope was so bad. Like she delivered all of her lines so flat. Like she delivered her lines like a actress doing like TikTok infomercials. Like she delivered her lines like you're reading for the school play. Like she delivered her lines like the casting couch was how she got in.
Okay, okay, enough bashing. Yeah, but I can see that. Yeah, like she wasn't a really good actress, whatever. And yeah, I guess it was kind of unnecessary. Yeah, because we only saw her like that time and then like one more time, and it was kind of like I don't know. It was kind of like a puzzle piece of the story, but maybe it was kind of unnecessary.
Yeah. I think we skipped the part though where like Winthrop like gets picked up by Morty and Randy from jail, and they like, take him back to Winthrop's house and give him new clothes and say, "This
Okay,
is
you
your
mean
house now."
Valentine got picked up? Yeah,
Oh,
I'm gonna.
Winthrop. Yeah, yeah, Valentine. Sorry. Eddie Murphy's character gets picked up by the two rich white guys,
Mhm.
and he thinks that they're gonna like fuck him. He thinks they're gonna like,
I
take his
mean,
booty.
yeah, but they were kind of scary. They're like, "Here's some whiskey and here's some cigars. Come in the car."
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I would definitely think that as well.
yeah, definitely, definitely. But yeah, there's a funny scene where he's like at the house and they're trying to explain to him like, this is your house now, and he's like trying to like steal stuff from the house, like put in like cigars and other trinkets he finds in like his suit pocket and stuff like that. And they take him out and they say, look, if you steal something, you're only stealing from yourself. And he's like, oh, this is my house, I can do anything. And he like breaks a vase and he's like, oh, I'm so sorry about that. And he's like, no, no, it's your vase, that's your vase. And he's like, "Oh, I bet it was a cheap vase." And then they say it was $35,000. And Morty is actually happy because they have insurance on the vase, so they made money off of the vase getting broken, which goes to show like how they make money is just so ridiculous. They don't even have to do anything, and they can
Yeah.
make money, showing like even more of how capitalism is so twisted and backwards. And like the people who really make money in capitalism just make money off of their money making money. And
Yeah.
yeah, there was also the funniest part of that scene was like he was like, "Should I break something else?" And everybody puts up their hands and says, "No, no, right now."
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like, they just knew like the tips and tricks and all the like, the little things that, you should do, and all the things that like kind of make you stingy,
Mm.
I guess, and they kind of lived by that, and that's how like they had their money, and they never shared with anybody as well.
Yeah. Let me. I think this is a good time to talk about like one of the themes of the movie that I think is underlying all of this, because I think everybody at one point in their life thinks, why do some people have so much and then some people have so little, or at least a lot of people have so little? And wouldn't the world be better if like one day, a poor person was just picked up and given all the money in the world, like lottery sort of situation, right?
Or
And
Mr. Beast.
or like Mr. Beast, right? Mr. Beast goes and gives $100 bills to everybody he sees on the street. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And there was a Tupac interview. Tupac did an interview a long time ago, and he was like 18 years old, still living in poverty. And he was like standing out on the balcony, hyped up, and he was saying, "Look at all those rich people. I think every day the rich people should come to the ghetto, and the poor people should go to the rich people's house, and that way we can have a better society and stuff like that." And so I think a lot of people think and wonder, what would that world actually be like? And I feel like this movie plays with that idea of like turning this world that we live in that's so unfair upside down. You get
Hmm.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And to take it even deeper on that, I feel like in America, because they chose, a black character in this to take the wealth of a rich white man, there's this thing in America where they say, oh, black people don't know how to handle money. And if we just gave black people the money that they actually deserved or that they earned from building this nation, they would waste it or they would not know what to do with it. And so this movie is playing with this like big fear that lives in white people's minds. Like if we give black people money, just give it to them, they're going to waste it. They're not going to know how to use it. They're just going to try to throw parties in the mansion or do drugs or buy fancy coats or go to the bar and take all the hoes and stuff like that. So I
Hmm.
feel like this movie jumps into that inner psyche of a lot of Americans' beliefs about black wealth and stuff like that. I just had to say
Mm.
that.
Yeah, I mean that's an insane type of thinking, because if you give someone money, it's not your money anymore. So you shouldn't be caring about what people spend it on, because it's not your money anymore. And come on, like, we have seen so many scandals of like white rich men spending their money on so many like twisted things. Like, just on the top of my head, Epstein.
Hmm.
So you can't really like go and assume like, people are gonna throw a party and that's so scandalous, while
Hmm.
like this, rich white man had a whole island dedicated to having like orgies and stuff like that.
Right.
So,
Right.
and like, trafficking children and all that stuff. So like I feel like that's so unfair, but I see it, like I see your point in this movie. And yeah, it's kind of like it's supporting the idea that environment and circumstances just like kind of affect a lot of like, what people earn and how they live their lives. And if we just like don't let circumstances affect us that badly, or if we exchange the circumstances, then like, we could have kind of like this more empathetic world.
Right, right. I think the movie says that at the end with how the movie ended, showing that good can triumph over evil and greed and that sort of stuff.
Hmm.
But the underlying idea that giving money to people who didn't earn it, or maybe who didn't value it, or maybe always looked at it as a way to just live out their most carnal,
Hmm.
deepest fantasies, would probably just waste it. Because like Morty and Randy didn't want to lose a single dollar. They were giving people $5 tips and acting like it was a big deal. So, they were putting this Negro man in charge of their whole empire just to play a big game, which
Hmm.
shows that rich people, once again, like to do sick and perverse things, because nothing's more perverse than putting your whole life in the hands of somebody you think is lesser than. You get what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah. And also like in the movie, and I'll just continue with like the script as well. So
Hmm.
like after the whole like exchange happens, and Eddie Murphy's character is now like the, in the suit and stuff like that. And so he goes out to like his favorite dive bar
Hmm.
in the city, and he's like showing off all his like money, and he's paying his $27 like debt to the bartender and stuff like that. And he's, buying everyone champagne. And, it's kind of like going into sort of like a direction where the audience would expect, because we're thinking, I guess, like in our head, okay, so this is a homeless man. This was a homeless man. So the first thing that he would do would be just like, just to be spending his money on, I don't know, like drinks and food or something like that. And then he takes like everyone home to his new fancy apartment, and he's throwing like a big party. But like
Titties
halfway through,
out.
yeah, a lot of titties. I don't know why. This is one thing the movie didn't need. We didn't need to see this much titties.
At least we didn't
And
see no bush.
Yeah, but it's a comedy movie about two guys trading places, and we saw like 10 titties in this movie. I don't know why, but this is definitely like, racist and sexist at the same time. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, people are like dancing, people are puking and all that, and then Valentine gets a bit icky, and he's like telling people, "Don't step on my Persian rug; it's from Persia." And then he's like, use coasters and all that stuff. He's kind of like getting into this rich character, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of it all, he's like, he goes up to his bedroom, and then there's like this naked girl saying like, "Oh, I was waiting for you," and then he's like, get out. He's
Mm-hmm.
not like interested in that, and then he kicks everyone out, and like the butler asks him like, "I thought it was a good party, sir." And Valentine says like, "No, they were just like some freeloaders who just wanted my money or the house and drinks, and I'm gonna go to sleep."
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like I don't know, what does it tell? I feel like there are two things there. First one is like how quick we are to like just change our needs and sort of like priorities, because Valentine was a guy who was sleeping on the street, didn't care about rugs or coasters. And then like it's been one day, and then now he's like worried that he's gonna get like water stains in his fancy you know table or something. And then also like he was so aware of like people just wanting to be friends with him or wanting to be around him for his money. So then he quickly like changes his position from this splurging guy to the guy who sees the truth of people, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't know exactly how to feel at that part because on one hand I was like, he's sort of becoming like the villains, these
Hmm.
people that care more about Persian rugs than they do about other people and stuff like that. But then on the other hand, he didn't know these people at all. He literally said they were freeloaders and stuff like that. I mean, I kind of would have done the same thing. After I hopped out of bed, after I beat that thing up, I would have been like, all right, now everybody's got to go. Get your coats and go.
You're
But
gross. You have a wife. You can't say that stuff.
I'm saying, I'm imagining if I was Valentine in the movie. But yeah, I think on one hand, it was good to see, I guess, a black character in this case, reject all the things that people would expect this black man to do in this situation. He lived like the end of Saltburn, but made a better decision. He didn't really want the wealth. He kind of just wanted peace, honestly. And people would see that scene of like the white woman in bed and thought, okay, he's just going to jump on that, or have all these black people in different minorities in his house, partying and dancing, and say, okay, this is what the Negroes would do if they had our wealth. But he sort of rejected all that, so it was good to see that on screen. But it sucks that he did that in the sense that he was like protecting private property. He was protecting his ownership over these things he was given, which
Mm.
which is like similar to the bad guys in this movie. But then also we do need to value things in our life, like we do need to protect certain things, value certain things that are around us, and understand our blessings when they come. So I don't know exactly how to feel about that scene.
I mean, I don't know, because those things didn't belong to him like 10 hours ago. So I don't know how to feel about that. Or I don't really know how to feel about, in general, admiration towards material things. Because honestly, like, I don't know. I don't feel like I'm gonna ever buy like you know, a $35,000 vase. I don't know if I'm that person because I feel like I'm not. I'm gonna feel guilty every time looking at that vase and be like, okay, this could be like someone's yearly income.
Hmm.
So I don't know. Maybe I'm saying this because I'm not rich. Maybe like I don't know. It's just me, talking as a poor person.
Hmm.
But I just feel like yeah, that possession is kind of poisonous.
Hmm.
And he was kind of getting into that vibe. But just like you said, he was also like he was trying to live like an honest life. He
Hmm.
wasn't feeling the whole drinking and drugs and all that.
Right. I mean, we never saw him. Well, we did see him use drugs, but he wasn't like, a party goer guy. I get the idea that maybe Valentine was maybe just a guy who was always a hustler. So that's why he was like pretending to be like a legless Vietnam vet. And like, just that's why he took so well to being this now stockbroker or whatever. Because like maybe all of his life he was more of a hustler than rather this party guy or a drunkard and stuff like that. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, he was definitely a street smart, which we will see like later in the movie.
Yeah. So Valentine kicks all the people out, and Winthrop, meanwhile, is getting out of prison, and now he's running around all over the city trying to get his stuff back. He goes to the bank. The bank says, "Sir, you are a drug dealer, and we don't want your business, sir." And he's crying on the street now. And he tries to go to the tennis club to meet up with his ex girl, and all the other waspy guys are like singing like the songs that would later become the background for NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys and One Direction to all the girls getting their little like tennis skirts wet. And here comes Winthrop in like a pimp suit, and everybody's like shunning him like, who let the white Negro in? And the girl that he loved is now like ignoring him, and they're more about like saving face than actually like helping their friend. So now Winthrop is forced to like lay up with Ophelia, a prostitute, and Ophelia actually is like the noble whore in the sense because she's like, I don't do drugs. I'm from some small town, but I moved to the big city with big dreams and big ambitions, and I figure if I keep on sleeping with different Johns for like 3 years, I can retire and make money and stuff like that. So I feel like Ophelia was supposed to like represent, in a sense, and this sounds really bad, but like honest work because she's like the only honest worker in the whole movie. And it's very strange that the movie made the most pure worker a prostitute
Mm.
and somebody who's willing to give up their body to achieve the American dream as the only person in this movie besides maybe Valentine, who's kind of noble. What did you think of Ophelia, like as a character and everything?
Yeah, it was interesting to see, like, her just being kind of like, oh yeah, I might be a prostitute, but I'm an independent woman, and I, like, I don't do anything shady and all that. So yeah, I guess that's like a metaphor, maybe, because being a good person, or being a person with morals, or and self respect, doesn't have to come from the job you do or how much money you have in the bank. Really, it's not really about like what you do as a living,
Mm.
and it's more about like the kind of person you are, and what you do in your everyday life, like day-to-day life outside of work, how you
Mm.
are.
I'm gonna take it even deeper. I feel like when Winthrop met Ophelia, Winthrop officially became a man because Ophelia was living like a true man in a sense, like independent and taking care of herself and not beholden to other men over her and stuff like that. Like Winthrop was. Winthrop lived under Randy. I'm lit. Winthrop lived under Randy and Morty, and literally with a snap of their fingers, everything in his life was taken away by just two men. Meanwhile, Ophelia couldn't have anybody take anything away from her. And also, at the same time, they're very similar because they've given up their life to capitalism, to the pursuit of money. But Ophelia is just more open with it. Winthrop probably thinks he can never be considered a prostitute. But basically, all workers under capitalism are prostitutes. Like you're giving away your time, your life, your body, your labor for money in exchange. And
Yeah.
Ophelia just does it more blatantly. She literally gives her body for money. No different than Winthrop. But the only difference is that she was truly free and Winthrop wasn't. And when he met her, then he became free. That's
Mm.
my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I think, like, it's even true today, right? It's like the same today, and but people are getting more, like, kind of, people start to get more liberal thoughts about like prostitution and sex work and all that. And yeah, I think that's a very good observation. You're smart, Simon.
And I think it becomes even more clear because there was a John who came there to sleep with Ophelia, and she said no. Like that's something only a boss can do. A boss is the only person in our society who can decide really not to work. And
Yeah.
Ophelia did that. And Winthrop, we can imagine, probably never took a day off. Couldn't take a day off unless he begged, Randy and Morty to be free. You know.
Yeah. And also,
So.
like, maybe I was a little bit annoyed when she was like, giving Louis so much, like, love and attention, and also like she was cutting him so much slack. But at the same time, I appreciated it, because it's like, I feel like in the modern society, when we see or think of women as being bosses, and just ruling their own lives, living their own lives, and earning their own money and stuff, we expect them to be like kind of like a cold-hearted bitch.
Mm.
But Ophelia wasn't really like that. She went, she was, I guess at first she was controlled by her mind, because she was also like, she wanted to make her life better by getting some money from Lewis. But then, like, she kind of like fell to him. I don't know, like
Mm-hmm.
fell in love with him or something.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like she was like this also a caring woman who, like, wanted to cook dinner for her guest, or I don't know, for her crush, whatever it
Mm-hmm.
was at the time. So I do also like appreciate that too. I don't see it as like 100% like, oh, weakness, like, oh, she's like, even though she's a boss, she's like, weak when she's with a man, or
Right.
something like that. I don't think that was like something that was
But
there.
but I think Ophelia's character is very complex, even though she has a very minimal role in the movie. It's a very complex character because what did she say to Winthrop when he was sick, and then she laid down with him and like took care of him when he was sick? What did she say?
What?
You don't remember?
She said like nobody works on Christmas Eve.
No.
And then what did she
She
say?
said, "I'm taking care of my investment."
Yeah.
Because we have to remember the only reason Ophelia was hanging out with Winthrop is not really because she cared about him. It's because she said, you know what, I'm gonna make a deal with you. Whenever you get your money back, you give me a good amount, and then I'll be able to retire from prostitution. Right. So
Hmm.
there was a part of it where she was like, I'm with this man, not because I truly love him, but because he will provide me security, which is very, very deep because I feel like this underlies a lot of the relationships between men and women in under capitalism.
Yeah.
How we look at relationships and how we interact with each other. Unfortunately, we live in this world where men make more money on average than women, and many women nowadays cling to men, not just out of love. And I'm not saying that one can exist exclusively without the other. Like you can't love your man if you also depend on him and that sort of stuff. But that is a part of it as well. Ophelia
Yeah.
might have loved Winthrop, but she also saw him as a blanket and protection, making her kind of no different than Penelope. Penelope wanted Winthrop because she knew that he was going to be rich and successful and da. Ophelia saw the same thing, but she just wanted to build that man back up to get there. Do you get what I'm saying?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I said in the beginning, we do see that she was using her mind, and she saw him as an opportunity. I don't think that like that type of perspective went away when, like, at the end of the movie and they were together. I do think there's like still that there was still that, because we see her like on a yacht or something. So we're thinking like, okay, she was a prostitute, and then now she's in a yacht. and she's living her best life. But I also think like Ophelia was kind of like a woman who, if she like actually didn't like Lewis at all, she still wouldn't be with him. Even, like she had money. She would take his money at the end of the deal because they made a deal.
Right. But
But
she did take the money at the end of the deal.
yeah.
She did, and she got, she got both. Because I mean, women don't just want money and no man. Preferably, they would like to have money and a man, or a man with money. You get what I'm saying? So
No, I'm saying like she wanted money and then also she wanted like love as well.
right, and so she got both. But she probably would have been happy with just the money too.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that.
Nobody said there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that I feel like Ophelia's character really is like the symbol for the worker, right? Because
Hmm.
when you say prostitute, when you say Ophelia was a prostitute, I'm thinking Ophelia is a worker. And
Yeah.
like as workers, a lot of us have this dream. If we play our cards right and do the right things, we can end up on the yacht too.
Yeah.
And Ophelia sort of embodies like the American dream in a way. Valentine doesn't embody the American dream because he got it on luck. Winthrop didn't validate the American dream because he got it from inheritance. But Ophelia got it through what we consider to be the way we're supposed to get it. Work hard, play your cards right, be clever, be smart, be at the right place, right time, and take advantage of opportunities.
Yeah.
And give your life, give your body to capitalism. And maybe things will work out for you. And Ophelia kind of did it.
Mm. Yeah. I guess. I mean, are you saying also like the modern relationships under capitalism have became like that American dream? Like
No,
what
not. I
women
mean,
want?
I would say relationships between men and women under capitalism have a lot of influence on financial dependence from one side or the other, right? And
Hmm.
typically it's one-sided, as in men hold more of the financial cards and women hold less in general, right?
Yeah.
So Ophelia laying down with Winthrop and saying, "I'm protecting my investment," is no different than what I think lies in the back of most women's minds when their man gets sick and their man makes considerably more money than them. It's like, I'm protecting my investment. I'm protecting the house I live in, the kids that I have, the food that we eat, et cetera, the lifestyle we have.
Hmm.
So once again, a prostitute is a more blatant worker. It's a more exploited worker in the obvious sense, right? Because
Yeah.
we prostitution is exploitation very blatantly. But that's no different than any other job we do.
Yeah.
And Ophelia's thoughts are just more blatant than the thoughts that we keep inside and don't share.
Yeah. No, I
It's,
understand. Yeah.
yeah. Sorry for ranting.
No, no, it's okay. That's what we're here for. It's
Yeah.
a podcast.
All right. So what's next? What's next in the story?
Okay, so we have Eddie just like adjusting to his real life, right? And I mean, like Valentine. And then he goes to work, and they basically put like coffee and bread and bacon in front of him, and he says like, "Oh, I already had my breakfast." And the Dukes are like, "No, we're here to explain you how this job works." And then they explain it to him. They're like, there are seasons and stuff like that. You buy it, you sell it, and then you make money in the middle because you get commission. And yeah, and then I think they start to like make a bet in the market or something, or they decide to buy or sell or something. But then Valentine says like, "Oh no, you shouldn't sell bacon or something because it's Christmas. People are going to wait until it's cheap and then they're going to buy it, so you should just wait it out." And then yeah, like they I guess Morty decides to wait, and then Randolph is like, "We can't risk everything," and they decide to wait, and then Valentine makes them money. And suddenly, I don't know, Valentine is like this guy who understands um, you know um,
The
stock
commodities market, yeah.
market and business and all of that, which was kind of like weird, but at the same time, it makes you question like, okay, so like, because I guess we assume that Valentine, when we first see Valentine, we assume that he doesn't have as good of an education, if he even has it at all.
Hmm.
It's not as good as like what Lewis had, right? It's not Harvard probably.
Hmm.
And I guess like you're kind of questioning like, is it really worth like the education and everything if you're street smart?
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know.
This makes me, that scene when Valentine made money on the market, like during his first trade or whatever. It reminded me of this article that I read many, many years ago, where basically these hedge fund guys, these guys on Wall Street who do complex trading all day, what they did is that they just got a cat. They bought a cat into the office, and for every day that year, they made that cat make the trades, and that cat just hitting random buttons on the keyboard made more money than the rest of the brokers on the floor.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah, you can look this up too. It's very true. And so I think when Valentine did that, once again, it goes to show like these markets and things like that, they're so random, and it's just all guessing games, and there's no real way to predict the future on how to make money in the market and that sort of stuff. Sure, you can have information that makes a big difference, because information at the end of the movie made a big difference in how Winthrop and Valentine got rich, and Morty and Randy went broke. But it's like it's all guessing. It's like, once again, the movie plays a big joke on all of us. The big joke is that capitalism makes no sense, and it's unfair, and it's not cool. It's not cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, but after that, I think Valentine. What happens next? Oh no, Winthrop is like deciding like he's gonna get back at Valentine, because I think he finds out. They find out that they have switched lives, right?
Yeah, like Lewis is like, you know, yes, they see each other in a taxi, and Lewis like kind of goes crazy, and he's like trying to reach out to different people. And then also like there's like the scene where one night like it's raining and Lewis is like just homeless, not homeless, but he's like, you know, poor. And Valentine is like in this restaurant eating dinner with all his like ex friends or colleagues or whatever. And yeah, so he sees that and he's like fueled up and he's like, I'm gonna get back at him.
Yeah, school
So
shooter
then,
mode.
huh?
School shooter mode.
Yeah, very school shooter mode. And but this time it's like Christmas party shooter because he goes to the Christmas party in the office in Duke and Duke.
Do you really feel like this is a Christmas movie? Because you were saying that while we were watching.
Yeah, I think this is a good Christmas movie.
It is not a Christmas movie.
It's during Christmas, so they people say Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
I mean, I guess. Can I
This
give a confession?
yeah.
I think I saw Die Hard, but I don't remember it. I think.
I mean, I don't know why I was like so surprised, but I saw Die Hard one time and I
Yeah.
really liked it when I saw it because it's one of those like cheesy action movies that is
Yeah.
kind of like a guilty pleasure.
hmm
Like it's so cheesy, it's good.
Yeah.
It has all the like good cheesy things, like weird lines, and the bad guys are, you know, just like really
hmm
good
hmm
and stuff like that. So I really liked it, but I saw it like I don't know 10 years ago or something. So I
Yeah.
don't even know if it's good.
I am pretty sure I saw it, but I feel like if I don't remember it, it must not have been good.
Yeah. But anyway, I think this is a Christmas movie you can watch with your. I don't know if you can watch it with your family because of all the N words flying out. But yeah, I don't know. It's still like a Christmas movie you can watch with adults.
A Christmas movie needs more than one or two scenes with the Santa Claus or reindeer or whatever.
Okay, so the theme has to be Christmas.
It has to contain at least 2/3 Christmas like themes or imagery. Like Santa Claus has to be like run. If Die Hard was a Christmas movie, like Santa Claus should have like busted out with like a machine gun from like a helicopter with like Rudolph the
Wow.
reindeer shooting
Okay,
like lasers out of his nose.
that's too much. Can I ask you for one thing?
Go
Can
ahead.
you bring me some wine?
Okay, no problem, no problem.
Thank you.
All right.
Anyway, so either way, I think this might be a Christmas movie, but like even if you don't see it during Christmas, I think it's still can be a family movie. Maybe I don't know. Depends on how like openly you are with your kids about racism, I guess.
I mean about titties. I mean, are you gonna tell them like why is Jamie Lee Curtis showing her titties?
She got some nice cities.
Doesn't she play like moms in movies now? She's
I
still
mean, she's
outside.
old now,
Yeah,
but she still has a good body.
yeah, but she don't be showing them knockers.
Yes, she is. I can see it like right now. Look. Anyway, so yeah, what were, oh yeah, so there's a Christmas party in the office basically, and then Valentine is in the office still working, and he finds this check for the spy guy,
hmm
and yeah, he's like, okay, I'm gonna go ask this, and then the other guys are like, don't worry about it, this was here before you came, and then the
hmm
two guys, Dukes, are talking like. Mortimer is saying like, you know, oh, like he has made us money, and then Randolph is like, you know, there's other part of the deal too. Like it's not only like Valentine has to become rich and successful, but Lewis has to become a criminal.
Right.
So in order like for him to win the bet.
Let me
So
just jump in right here. I
yeah,
really liked that scene when they were like talking that blatantly about the deal right in front of Valentine because it showed me that they didn't really think he was intelligent at all. And they didn't even really buy into this belief that your environment or your situation can make you a better person.
yeah,
Because like they were like saying, like Morty said, I'll be accepting my Nobel Peace Prize in Stockholm, like right in front of Valentine. And then the other guy says the other part of the deal is that he has to make money and the other has to lose or something like that. And I'm like, yo, like that's like this is something like at least I've always thought like the white supremacists and like racists always talk about us right in front of us, but they use code words. They use like language like, oh, I don't like black people. They don't say I don't like black people. They say I don't like ghetto people. Or hip hop has caused so much problems in our community and stuff like that.
mm,
Or like all these baby mamas running around. This is causing problems for families in urban communities. Like we know what they're talking about. We know who they're talking about, but they use this code language. And that I feel like that scene was like that code language, like used right in front of our face.
yeah,
Mm,
yeah, definitely. I mean, when that scene happens, we see like Valentine kind of finding something weird,
hmm
but he can't put like his mind around it. He's
Yeah.
like, you know, these guys are just like white, old, and weird and rich. So he kind of just like lets go and goes back to the office. And then we see the Santa,
yeah.
which I think that like it was a very good like scene to see that character like I guess downfall
hmm
because he truly looked disgusting and he was
Yeah.
doing disgusting things like putting fish in his jacket and things like
hmm
that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we see like Lewis like just miserable in a filthy Santa suit
hmm
and he has crashed the party. And before that, he goes to a pawn shop and he tries to like sell his watch, which costs like $6,000, and the guy accepts it for like $50.
That was a funny scene because the pawn shop guy was like, "I got him." I like that face because Lewis said, "Oh, this watch is $6,000," and the pawn guy was like, "Here in Philly, it goes for 50." And then Lewis was like, take it." And while he's looking down, the pawn guy looks up at him and licks his thumb and starts counting the money. That shit was funny. That was like
Yeah.
low key funny. That was perfect.
Yeah, and then like in that scene, he says like, "How much is that gun?" And then it cuts off to the party. So we know like we kind of know that he got the gun. And in this scene, I was thinking, wait, so a gun is like like maximum $50?
No,
That's
this is what I think. I think the pawn guy was like, the gun, $6,000. That's what I wish. I wish that was what they said. That, I would have died laughing.
but he got the gun, so like I don't know if guns are that cheap.
Maybe the gun was that cheap. I mean, maybe also Lewis had a little pocket money, so maybe it was like $100 max.
That was kind of crazy to me. I was thinking about that. But anyway, so like yeah, and then he goes like he sees Valentine going out of the office, and he goes into his office putting like drugs in his drawer, and then Valentine walks in and he says like, "What are you doing here?" And then yeah, Lewis is like yelling for the security and the Dukes, and he's saying like, "Oh, he has drugs, and you know he has pills, marijuana, da da da." And then yeah, Valentine is just like not taking him seriously, and everyone is like, like look at Lewis, what has he become? And of course, like Morty here is kind of enjoying it because he's like, oh yeah, like he has become a criminal.
Yeah.
And
I just
then
I just gotta say, like when he pointed that gun and Eddie was on the phone with security and all he said was like "Merry Christmas" and put the phone down. That was
yeah,
pretty funny. That was pretty funny. And I
yeah,
didn't know what to expect either. I thought he might cap somebody. I really thought he was gonna like pull the trigger.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, basically Lewis like pulls up a gun and he goes all wild, and yeah, he gets out of the place. And then we see like Valentine, he takes a joint from the drawer and then puts all the other stuff in the trash,
Yeah, that was
which
pretty
was
funny.
funny.
That was
And
funny.
yeah, and then like he goes into the bathroom to smoke the joint, and then he sees like Dukes walking in, and he basically hears the plan that they were plotting against him. They're talking like, you know, oh, like I won the bet. Morty's like, I won the bet, and then Randolph is like, here's your $1.
Yeah,
And
that was pretty low. That was pretty
yeah,
low. By the way, about the weed scene, about Eddie Murphy smoking weed in the bathroom, I'm pretty sure he thought of that. I'm pretty sure, like in the original script, it was like, okay, so Valentine has to go piss, and like Eddie's like, no, I have to smoke some weed. I'm pretty sure that's how it went.
yeah. I mean, it was funny because he eats the joint. He's like, he
Yeah,
puts the whole thing in his mouth.
yo, that's gotta burn, man.
Yeah.
That had to leave a scar, permanent scar.
Anyway, so like he knows the plan that they, you know, plotted
Yeah,
against the two of them,
yeah.
and then he goes, yeah,
Oh, but yeah, in that scene, it was like one of the most revealing scenes, and I think one of the most important scenes because up to that point, like you could maybe say that Randy was racist because Randy, the old white guy who was greedy and who was betting that it's all about the genes, it's all about your blood. You could guess he was racist by his language and also what he said earlier. Like Valentine has probably been stealing since before he could crawl because he's a Negro, and also Randy did a trick where he left like $50 on the ground, and Valentine actually did a good thing and brought it back to the person who dropped it. Proving that he's not a thief and stuff like that. So you could think that one of the old white men is the racist, but in that scene, we hear them say, we want to get rid of Winthrop, and we don't want to bring him back. And then the option said, then Morty says, so should we put in Valentine? And Randy's like, no, because I don't want a nigger running my company, and I know you don't want it either, Morty. And he said, certainly not. And it's like, okay, all right, now we know like all of their ideas about genes or environment, nature versus nurture. It doesn't really matter because these people still are racist. They're still pretty evil. They're still
yeah,
just all around bad people. And I think that's important because, even if we talk about what makes a person better, their environments or their genes or whatever, it doesn't matter if there's still that kernel of hate in them, if they have disdain for people or if they naturally look down on people because of who they are, regardless of their environment or their education or their genes. Do you get what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah. That was definitely like, yeah, that was that like that hit part where they were just like, you know, because in that scene you're kind of rooting for them to put Valentine to the head of company because he's doing such a great job in like such a short amount of time regarding like his background, and then you kind of go like, oh damn, like turns out Morty is racist too.
Yeah.
He was playing him all along, and that like because up until that point, like you said, they kind of built Morty like a sympathetic character, but then there we see like actually both of them are kind of like just evil.
Right. Right. And once again, I feel like this goes to show something that I've been saying for a long time. It doesn't matter how educated we are or how successful we are. Like, no matter what we do, we are still going to be hated by some group of people. So we should just do whatever we want. And finally, I think this was a transformative moment for Valentine because he realized that there's more to life than money. It's actually about your dignity as well. So he could have easily tried to do, like, I guess, kind of like what Winthrop did before the whole situation happened. Get along to get along, be nice to his bosses, try to perform extra hard, extra well. But he decided to do something totally opposite, go against the people that were just playing with their lives and try to make his own destiny with this
Yeah,
opportunity.
yeah,
And I think that was
exactly.
a transformative moment.
Yeah, yeah. He realized that like he was, never actually appreciated, and then he will never be appreciated just because he's black.
Hmm.
Because they were like, the Dukes were like, oh, we can keep him around until the crop time or something like that. So he had time to earn some money and then like get off the company and do something with that money, basically.
Right. And another thing, I feel like this movie is also, good propaganda because what happens next? Valentine and Winthrop, meet up and they decide to, take matters into their own hands. And meanwhile, Morty and Randy are thinking, we don't need either of these guys. We could pick somebody else and pay them less or not have them at all, and we could be just fine, honestly. Because, like, these major companies don't actually want us or need us if they have the choice. They could easily get rid of us, and they'll be more than happy to.
Okay. Yeah.
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 Anyway, moving on. So Winthrop is running around the city like Santa Claus, getting drunk, being nasty on buses. He tries to kill himself, which goes to show you like this movie is hella old because you would never see somebody try to commit suicide like on in a movie in 2023. So he pulls the trigger on the gun, but the gun jams, and then he throws it in the streets, and like it goes off, which goes to show this movie is really in Philly. This is a really Philadelphia movie. Valentine chases Winthrop down to Ophelia's house, and they get Winthrop out of the bathtub after he ingested a lot of pills and take him back to Coleman's house, or no, Winthrop's original house, where he was at the beginning of the movie. And he wakes up in his old bed, clean shaven, and he looks up at Coleman, his butler, and says, "Oh, I thought it was a bad dream. Everything was taken away from me by this horrible Negro." And then he looks at Eddie Murphy and jumps on him and says, "I'm gonna kill you, Valentine." I thought that scene was great. What do you think of that?
Yeah, it was funny, and it also like once again, I don't know what to think about Lewis because they also kind of paint him out to be like a sympathetic guy overall. I would say like maybe not in the beginning, but definitely towards the end because he is a racist.
Yeah,
But then we see him like teaming up with Valentine to beat the bad guys,
yeah,
and then I guess they end up becoming friends.
yeah.
But yeah, like I don't know. It is kind of weird, and I really like, by the way, like whenever like we kind have those moments where it's like kind of cringe for Black people,
Hmm.
like the bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich.
Yeah, I didn't get that because I don't think Black people like really love BLTs like that. And I like the way Eddie Murphy looked at the camera when they
Yeah,
said
that's what I was gonna say. And also like when Lewis says that, there's also that very like short scene where they show Valentine and Valentine is like looking at the camera and he's like saying he's kind of doing like what type
Yeah,
of face with his like with his gestures.
yeah,
And I like that type of hinting to the audience.
yeah. I mean, there were some weird parts. I mean, this movie was written by two white men, so
Yeah.
I don't know what they were going at with some of the jokes. But I feel like none of the jokes were made at the expense of Black people.
Hmm.
And once again, I feel like we have to go back in time to that era. Like back then, using the word Negro, nigger, shit like that, faggot. Like this movie drops at least two f-bombs, a few n-bombs, and a bunch of like sexist jokes. So it's 1983. Like, what can we expect? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, that was like it's definitely weird like watching it today, knowing like that those sort of like standards of respect are put in our society.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's definitely like a bit weird because
Yeah,
you don't see any of the Black characters getting riled up, because
yeah,
of those kind of slurs.
yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, that's why it
eh,
was normal back then. But I,
yeah,
th- I thought one of the most unintentionally funny scenes was like, when after Valentine gets choked out by Winthrop, and he says, they bet on us, man. They wanted to make me rich and you poor, and they only bet for $1. And then Winthrop says, "Oh, it was my life was in their hands only for $1. Time for me to do what I need to do." And then the next scene is like Winthrop in the in the living room loading up his shotgun, and like Coleman is bringing him like more ammo. I'm like, oh god, this movie's about to go dark. And like Ophelia's just on the couch like eating a plate full of salad because she's going for heroin chic.
yeah, that was so annoying because it's like Ophelia, you're like a middle class prostitute who just like came into a mansion and you're in this rich people's house and you're eating like a bowl full of arugula. Really? Is
What's wrong
like
with
that's
that?
what you're eating? Because I know I'm not eating arugula in a rich people's house. I don't
I'm,
know.
I mean, I feel like you would only see arugula in a rich person's house because we don't have arugula in our fridge.
I mean, I like arugula, but that was just Hollywood being Hollywood
Uh,
in those times, I guess.
I mean, you saw what Coleman was cooking at the beginning of the movie. It did not look good. He didn't even want to eat it.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
It was definitely weird, but I wanted to say something, but I forgot. Oh
Oh.
yeah, because I just wanted to say like yeah, when Valentine said like they were betting on us, like the first question Lewis asked is how much, as if like
Mm.
that's gonna change something. Like if they betted on them for like $30,000 or something,
Yeah.
it would have been justified. But
Mm.
then like he's crushed when he hears like it's $1.
Mm. That's interesting. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, he probably values his life as a monetary amount because he's thinking about all the money I made for this company, all the things I did for this company, and that everything was gone for $1. He probably would have been okay with $1 million, but not a
Yeah.
dollar. Yeah. But yeah, just them loading up the guns in the living room was just hilarious. And so then the TV comes on, and the TV report announced that the I don't know, some government agency is going to announce the new price of like orange juice or something like that, one of the commodities that Duke and Duke trades. And they realize that the person who's holding the briefcase with the numbers for like orange production in America is what's his name? Creed?
Beaks.
Beeks, yeah, Beeks. So Beeks was the guy that Duke and Duke was paying off the entire time. and Beak is supposed to be the man who's transporting this information. So Duke and Duke has access to this information before the rest of the market does. So this gives them a better opportunity to make a ton of money during the trade. And so now the mission is on to intercept Beaks before he can get to Duke and Duke. So Valentine, Winthrop, Ophelia, and Coleman all get on the same train that Beaks is taking from Philly to DC or something like that. No, from Philly to New York. They're all going to New York, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they go on the train. There's also like a New Year's party. So AKDI, this is your time to say this is also a New Year's movie too.
It is. Actually, someone wrote that in Letterboxd. So I was like, I'm not alone.
I'm very interested to hear some Letterboxd reviews. But yeah, they're on this New Year's train where everybody's throwing a party and stuff like that. And Beaks is sitting down in his cabin alone. And then comes Valentine dressed up like a Cameroonian. And he's making like these weird African noises, flattening the swires away, wearing like some traditional African garb and stuff like that. Pretty offensive by today's standards. But the funny thing is, you know how everything's come full circle. Now there are like some Black Americans who hate on Africans, so they'll probably die laughing at those jokes. I'm not laughing at those jokes. Any jokes at the expense of Black people like that, I'm not rocking with. But whatever. It's 1983. 1983.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was like watching it in 2024. It's kind of like outdated.
Yeah.
Like Black American guy disguising himself as an actual African guy or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of weird, but
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Also on the train, there's a gorilla. Like they brought a gorilla in the movie for some reason. You want to jump on that?
I mean, I don't know. I thought that was super cheesy because I feel like I've seen that in like at least good 10 movies so far.
Yeah.
Like somehow some guy ends up with a monkey in a cage or a gorilla, and then like gorilla like falls in love with the guy or the costume, and then tries to like have sex with him. Basically,
Yeah.
That's kind of like outplayed. So it wasn't that like it wasn't that entertaining, or it wasn't like a funny part of the movie, I would say. But I guess like it was part of the plot. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, if you really want to take it there, I think the gorilla might represent. Sorry, the gorilla might represent the untamed nature or untamed natural proto-human, because unfortunately, Black people were seen, even I guess to some extent in this movie, because Randy and Morty, didn't view Valentine as an equal and stuff like that. So gorillas or monkeys are seen like that, and this movie is about the bonds that are tied between people who are considered to be above and superior, and people who are seen as less than equal. And how are these bonds built between them? So the idea of putting Beaks in the cage with the monkey is no different than Morty and what's his name, Randy, putting the idea of separating and creating different circumstances for Val, who is considered less than human, the monkey, and Winthrop, who's considered the human, right? It could be another experiment. This movie's all about experiments and what we could do to people. You could really take it there, if you wanted
I
to.
mean, I guess you can, because at the end they say that the gorillas are being shipped to Africa for some experiments. So maybe you're not too wrong about that, I would say.
Yeah.
I didn't really read that much into it, honestly, but now that you said it, and then now I'm connecting it to the ending scene. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you could read it there if you really want to. I mean, I feel like that's a bit too on the nose to say that. It's like, because once again, like, how can we talk about this idea of people with less than and people with more than without comparing Black people to monkeys? How can we can make this better analogy?
I mean, I don't think it was necessarily like, I don't think it was necessarily taking it there. Maybe it was because like, how Beaks guy was on in the game, and he helped like Duke's ruin like, Lewis's life, and then also I guess kind of Valentine's life. So like maybe it was just like they said that because it was kind of like karmic. Like, oh, he had his turn now, like now he's going to be part of an experiment.
Right.
So yeah.
I mean, you could really take it there if you wanted to, but essentially Beaks gets trapped with the monkey. They get sent to Africa for experiments. Val, Coleman, and Winthrop and Valentine get the reports from this government agency about oranges. They make it to New York on the trading floor. Duke and Duke are there, the big old bad guys. They're telling their broker that they're going to buy everything, even if the price drops, because I guess Valentine and Winthrop gave them bad information in their briefcase, but they have the right information in their briefcase. So they know that the price is going to drop. Meanwhile, Duke and Duke think the price is going to go up. So that's why he's telling them buy, and stuff like that. But then the information comes out, the price just suddenly drops. Winthrop and Valentine are making a killing on the floor. Duke and Duke can't do anything, and they lose all of their fortune. And Valentine and Winthrop become hella rich at the end. And they made a bet that that they couldn't make Duke and Duke go broke for $1, and Valentine won the bet, so he gets $1 from Winthrop.
Yeah, I mean, I really like that kind of like closing joke or speech or whatever like you call it. I like that they just didn't like make a cheesy speech at the end about how money is not important and all that. And they just like, they were like, oh, like we made a bet, so here, $1. So I thought that was just like simple yet effective and funny. And yeah, I don't know. What did you think about the end?
I thought it was good. I thought it was a good ending, really clever, really cool. Because usually it's hard to make movies about like the stock market like funny and like informative, because like the movie at that scene sort of explains how trading works and stuff like that, and they made it understandable at least. So at least you could get the idea of what was happening at the end of the movie. I liked how at the end Randy was like ranting, was like, "We built this stock market. We've been here for 200 years. A Duke has been in this family at this trading market forever," and stuff like that. But nope, margin call comes. You got to pay your $300 million debt, and so they get wiped out, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess also it was, I don't know if this is like a message that you can get from the ending, but I don't know, like maybe it also says like capitalism maybe in the essence doesn't really have like rules
Mm-hmm.
unless like you're rich. Like if you're
Mm-hmm.
rich, then you can bend all the rules, but if you're not rich, doesn't matter like where your family comes from, or like if you're white and stuff like that, then you're gonna like, you know, get all your money taken.
Right.
I don't
I
know.
think
I don't
I,
know if it gives that message.
I think it's a bit of the opposite. So the whole idea of the movie and the experiment is that what if we take this poor kid and make him rich, and the rich kid and make him poor? What would the circumstances be? But the only difference actually is that the rich kid and the poor kid got rich because they had information that Duke and Duke didn't have. That's why they were able to know when to buy, right?
Mhm.
Because or sell because they knew the price was going to drop. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And
but
so go ahead.
yeah, but then again, like maybe okay, so maybe like yeah, not money, but like whoever knows the tips and tricks or the sneaky ways of you know capitalism, then they have money. Therefore, like they win.
I, you know what? I would, in from my understanding of like finance and stuff, they call information an edge. When you have information, that's what gives you the edge in the market. So if I were to know tomorrow that Walmart is going to release a report that says that they lost $20 billion, I know that I need to sell the first thing tomorrow before anybody else knows to sell. So that's just an edge, and that has nothing to do with like a tip or a trick. It's just that information and that sort of opportunity that I have that the rest of the world doesn't have. And I think what we see in capitalism is that some people have edges at different times or things that can give them an opportunity or a leg up that puts them in position. And there are going to be winners and losers in that circumstance. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but information doesn't just come from air most of the time. Like there are ways to get it, and like what we see in this movie, the ways to get it are usually like not, you know.
Exactly. But then
So
how did
that's
the
what I
Duke?
meant by like tips and tricks and all that.
Yeah, but then like how did the Duke family get their edge? Because they like they said we've been on the stock market for 200 years. Well, how'd you get on the stock market in the first place? Oh, my great great granddaddy owned a cotton farm. Oh, what was on that cotton farm? Sister slave. What? Sister slave. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I don't know. So I guess like after that ending, we see like the gorilla being shipped off with Beak, and then also we see like Lewis and Valentine in an island, and they're like living their nice rich life with Coleman as well. And yeah, that's kind of like the ending.
Yeah. They sail off in the sunset. It's Shawshank Redemption with a happy ending.
Yeah, I guess.
All right. So overall, what do you rate this movie?
Mm, I'm gonna give it a 6.
Me too. A solid 6. Not
Yeah.
laugh out loud funny. It has a lot of good themes, good ideas. Eddie Murphy is kind of funny. Some of the scenes are very memorable. Some of the dialogue is memorable, but not the greatest comedy he's done. Definitely not.
Yeah. I mean,
I,
Coming to America is definitely like way better.
yeah, Coming to America is way better. I feel like when Eddie Murphy writes his own movies and comes up with the ideas, he's golden. You know,
Yeah.
and when he also has other great comedians with him, like Harlem Nights, to me is the funniest movie that he's done because I was dying watching that movie when we watched it the first time, and I definitely would like to watch it again, hopefully. But yeah, I definitely think Eddie is great, but he also needs a good cast around him, and the other people around him aren't funny. Dan Aykroyd is not funny like that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, overall, like, there were really, like, I thought Jamie Lee Curtis was, like, really good in this movie. And then Eddie obviously was really good. Like, he's always really good. And then those were kind of like the only actors who, like, shone.
Mhm.
But yeah, I definitely agree. Like, Harlem Nights is a better movie. What was the other one with the prisoners that we
Oh,
watched?
Life.
Life is a better movie. Coming to
Life is a much,
America.
much, much better
Coming to
movie.
America 2 is a better movie,
Yeah, Coming
maybe.
to America 2 is a good movie. People hate on it, but I thought it was good.
Yeah, yeah, it was good.
Yeah. So not the
So,
best Eddie Murphy movie, but still good. You should check it out. But after you watch some other ones like Life, Harlem Nights, etc. And yeah, don't go into the movie thinking it's going to be PC because Dan Aykroyd wears blackface, N words are dropping, F bombs are dropping.
Titties in
It's
your face.
titties in your face. It's the 80s, man. It's the
Okay. You want
80s.
to read some comments from
All right,
Letterbox?
you can go ahead.
Okay, let's see. Someone said probably the great American comedy about race and class and labor. There's some problematic stuff in here, of course, but I actually don't think it's too bad, all things considered.
Generally agree. Yeah. I don't know if it's the definitive one to talk about race, class, and labor, but it's a good start. It's the closest
Mm.
thing that America has to maybe like anti-capitalist media.
Yeah,
We don't have a lot of movies that celebrate fighting against capitalism. We have a
yeah,
lot of movies that celebrate being in capitalism.
mm, yeah. Someone else said deeply, deeply mean spirited and undercooked in a way that made me feel bad from its comically evil setup until its unearned con of an ending. Merry New Year.
I have no idea what that means.
I don't know. I guess it very much disturbed him. But he still liked the ending. I don't know. Everyone loved the dirty Santa Claus, Dan Aykroyd.
Okay.
Everyone, I mean, loved as in like everyone thought he was disgusting and kind of like, you know, nailed the disgusting part.
Okay. Is that like the perfect Halloween costume?
I mean, are you gonna dress up as Dan Aykroyd's nasty Santa Claus?
I like being clean Santa. I like being fresh, sexy Santa. I don't want to be a nasty Santa.
Wow. Okay. Let's see. What else? Someone said Trading Places is a social satire with admirable aims, but the way that it whiffs its landing is emblematic of the deepest problems in the very 1980s culture that it parodies.
Why? Because they ended up on a yacht with hookers and caviar.
Let's see. Annoyingly talented sleazebag of a director, John Landis pitched Places as an updated version of the Preston Sturges and Frank Capra's socially conscious comedies of the 30s. I don't know. Like he's making a bunch of references. I don't have this much movie, you know, background. He's like talking about 1930s movies that I've never seen.
I mean, no idea under the sun is original. So of course, this story has probably been told before about the rich man who becomes poor and the poor man who becomes rich, and what happens to their lives afterwards. So, yeah, but you know, old ideas create new media.
Yeah,
We're not
yeah,
the first ones to do a movie review for Trading Places, and we won't be the last.
true, true. Let's see if they have like what they have in the bad comments. Someone said Jamie Lee Curtis's tits are the only good part of this dreadfully unfunny film.
I would disagree because they're not that good.
I would agree. I mean, I don't think it's a dreadfully unfunny movie, but I would say that that part was actually good.
If I think about who had better 1970s or 80s boobs, who was the girl from Rocky Picture Horror Show?
Who's the guy who played the
No,
Rocky?
Susan Sarandon.
Oh yeah.
Susan Sarandon had the best 70s and 80s boobs.
Wow. Okay. I don't know if I've seen her boobs.
She showed them in the movie.
Which one in the
Rocky.
Rocky?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember her boobs. I don't know.
Okay.
Jesus. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Someone says, and this is I just wanted I wanted to read another Black person's review of this movie, and she gave it a 1 star, and she said that was so unlikable. I think for all its shifting tones, this film is just plays with serious socio-political themes like racism and poverty and the abusive natures of the extraordinary wealthy, but really just thinks the status quo is still worth maintaining. Yeah.
Um, I think when it comes to media that challenges the status quo, there is that burden to try to replace it with a new status quo, right? But movies should take you out of reality, but still keep you in it in a way. So, what ideally Valentine and Winthrop blow up the New York Stock Exchange and rob a bank and then fly to the Bahamas and live happily ever after. But that's super unreal. What's more real is that they find a way to take down the bad guys and then build wealth for themselves and live in a more equitable way. Like Coleman finally gets his own butler. Maybe that could be reincorporating the status quo, but his butler seemed happy, as shallow as that sounds, in my opinion. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, yeah, I guess like I would assume like because Coleman had to put up all of the shit that like his bosses were giving him, he would act in an empathetic way to like his butler. Yeah. But it still doesn't like he still has a butler. Yeah. So it's like I don't know. Why do you need a butler, Coleman?
Because he's Coleman. He's like, I just wonder what that feels like.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. Yeah. Okay, so she said also the scene where Eddie Murphy kicks out all those awful, undesirable Black people before deciding to retire, seemingly accepted he should, after all, really be bettering himself. A moment played with no degree of humor really had me questioning to what extent the script was written with the full awareness that white, wealth-hoarding men are actually depraved as hell and Black people in poverty in America really are just literal victims of societal circumstances.
I think it's good to remember that not everybody at that party was Black. Presumably they weren't even all poor, because I saw some people there who were wearing like suits and nice clothes and stuff like that. There were a few Black people there, but he kicked the white girl out that was in his bed naked. Everybody is a victim under capitalism, I would say. But yeah, that scene I think is meant to make you feel conflicted. It's like if you're socially aware, Valentine should be acting in a way where he is disgusted by this wealth and tries to find a way to redistribute it. But instead, he sort of values the wealth because he sees it as a blessing that takes him out of the poverty he was once in. So that scene can be interpreted many different ways, but I don't think I mean, you can look at it as Valentine turning his back on his people or on Black people or people like him. But I think It's a bit deeper than that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, like we said, I was kind of feeling conflicted about like Valentine in that scene because I was like, okay, like, is he becoming one of them or
Hmm.
something like that? But yeah, I mean, it's a movie, so honestly, like, obviously, you can't like really expect like everything that you would dream of to happen
Yeah,
because they have to go in one direction according to like the theme of the movie.
yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, I'm skipping some of it because it is a long comment, but she's basically saying like that Eddie Murphy was kind of like too straight and like she couldn't feel it because it was painful that like he was being taken advantage of to prove an inherently racist argument. And
Hmm.
then she thought also like Dan's character was not funny. She liked Jamie Curtis, and she said for the ending, I guess. Oh, and also it suggests racism is instantly redeemable or forgivable, as if I can ignore 95 minutes in, and it was all because of this terrible, awful N word. Like she's saying like all the N words and like, oh, so we're just supposed to like, or he like the Valentine is supposed to like, just like forgive everything
I want to
and
say something.
not kind of like address the racism of the
I want
situation.
to say something about Valentine's intelligence because I think that's up to the viewer to determine. Because I think Valentine knew earlier than what we thought he knew that this was all a big game and an experiment. I think
Mhm.
by the time he broke the vase, that these white folks were playing a big game on him, and that what he had obviously was probably somebody else's before. And so he probably knew, okay, I'm in this situation. How do I navigate it to the best of my ability? Rather than, hey, I'm some dumb idiot, and I guess these good white folks just want to give me some money. I don't think he was like that. If you look at Valentine and think he was stupid, you're going to see that. But I saw an intelligent man who was playing a fool and was not letting everything he knew out of him. Because, he didn't just find out, when they were talking to him in front of the party, in my opinion. I think he probably knew much earlier, but just went along with it.
Yeah, like at that scene where he's in the house for the first time, I was like, when the scene ended, I was like, why didn't he ask what's in it for you? Because I was thinking that would be the first question I asked. Like if someone extremely wealthy is doing something extremely like good for me, I'm gonna ask what's in it for you.
Exactly.
So I'm like, okay, why isn't he asking that? But you kind of can see from like his facial gestures and stuff like that, like he's not dumb. He's not just oh like you said, he's just like playing Pollyanna, but he is also like you have to understand that he didn't have a home like 10 hours ago. So now
Mhm.
like he has a home and he's rich. So yeah, like obviously he's gonna go with the flow.
Yeah. Yeah, just like most people, 99.9% of people would do.
Yeah, yeah,
At the very
exactly.
least, they would go with the flow, and a good portion of them would like blow it all. They wouldn't care that people were putting cigarettes out on the Persian rug. But he probably was thinking, and that's, I think, the scene where he kicked the people out showed his intelligence. Like, I was given this opportunity, let me try to ride it out as best as I can, as good as I can.
Yeah, yeah, maybe. And also like maybe yeah, like the way that he thinks like that was maybe because I can't trust this like these rich people because yeah, like I might be here today and then I might not be here like tomorrow.
Right. Which is like for any of us with our jobs, right? And so
Yeah.
he looked at this, his life became a job too. He gave his life to capitalism and was like, okay, this is the game. This is the game. When you're in it, you're in it all the way. And this is what's comes a part of it. So,
Yeah. I mean, I can understand where she's coming from because for a movie that has this much racial slurs and then like that sort of like race argument never comes up or like there's never a conversation around race or racism even like at the ending or things like that. Like I know this is a comedy movie, so yeah, like that's maybe sort of acceptable or expected, but I can understand that like okay, so you're just going to do like you're going to do a bunch of like slur words for black people and then you're going to also do a blackface and then like you're just never going to acknowledge the racism in the movie.
okay.
It was yeah. I don't know.
So, I mean,
I
this
get
goes
her point. That's just all I'm
I
saying.
get her point, but I feel like she's going against, she doesn't know us. But of course, you can't watch a 1983 movie and leave a review in 2023 or 2024 and expect that movie from 40 years ago to actually hold up to how we use language today, first and foremost. And then,
Yeah.
secondly, we white people, I've said this before and I'll say it again and I'll get crucified for it, whatever. White people are incapable of thinking outside themselves, and they are incapable because of that of actually dealing with racism and actually confronting the complexities and contrasts of it. They are never able to fully make any sort of art that deals with it in a way that is sustainable and helpful and developmental, because they
Yeah.
don't know, they don't have the mental capacity to think about what it is like to live as a racialized minority that will forever be outside of the halls of power, regardless of how educated they are, how well they are, whatever. So the two white writers who wrote this, even if they really, really tried, if they tried to reconcile, Winthrop's racism or Randy and Morty's racism, or even if they wanted to reconcile Valentine's homophobia, they couldn't do it. They wouldn't know how to do it.
Yeah.
Just yeah. What do you
No.
think?
I agree. Yes, and we have seen movies where like they were written by black. I'm sorry, they were written by white people, and it's about like black struggle and things like that, like The Color Purple. Um,
I mean,
but
Cut Purple was written by a black woman. It was just directed by Steven Spielberg, and
I guess yeah.
I think Steven Spielberg did a decent job. I'm sticking by
Okay.
that.
Okay. I mean, I'm not specifically talking about that movie. I'm just saying, I guess we've seen it. I feel like I know, like, you know, uh, movies about blackness and or racism and things like that, and they were like written or directed by white people. But yeah, like it
The
is I do agree that like it is sort of impossible because like yeah you don't really live your life like that as a white person. You're never like racially profiled or anything you know by
right,
the people around you. So yeah, there's no way of knowing how that feels.
right, because like
I
the
mean,
white,
you can practice thinking outside of the box, but I do agree that like n- unless there's like no more racism left in this world, it's gonna be sort of impossible to like fully understand or think like a black person because that's just an experience that white people don't have.
right. For example, like number one, the writers probably did not even notice the double standard in how the police treated Valentine and how the police treated Winthrop in Duke.
Hmm.
Valentine ran in there running from the police and they put guns in his face. Winthrop ran in there with a gun and was able to walk out no problem. And I guarantee you the writers didn't notice that, and the white audience who watched this movie didn't notice that
Yeah,
either.
I didn't notice that, Simon, until you said it. I'm sorry, I'm being honest, but
Yeah,
that's basically like, how like especially growing up in a like I guess white looking or Asian looking society or just like being in a homogenous society. Like I'm not like my brain is sort of like not wired to think like that. And also like not being American as well.
right.
But yeah, it's just like not wired to think around race, but it's different for you, for example, because uh, since you were a baby, literally your brain is always like, this is something that makes me different, and this is something that people like treat me bad over. So I
Right.
have to like think around race and kind of like live my life around race because this is
But
what the society is pushing me to do.
but let's clear that up, because some people might listen to this and say, "Oh, you only notice that because you are focusing on race rather than is that fair treatment?" So I'm gonna ask you, like the way Valentine was treated by the police and the way Winthrop was treated by the police, or even less, a security officer, was that fair?
Was that fair?
Yeah,
No, because Valentine didn't have a gun or anything. And then Dan's character, Winthrop, had a gun. And he was
yeah.
literally like pointing at someone
Pointing at
and nothing
everybody.
happened.
He said, "I'm gonna
Yeah.
kill you all." He walked out of there and said, "I'm gonna kill everybody."
Yeah. So, yeah, like it wasn't fair.
Yeah,
No.
multiple times, Winthrop threatened violence with people. He was loading up guns, planning on shooting up the whole office, Meanwhile, Ophelia is eating arugula, watching the TV news.
Just
But
feeling
had that been,
comfortable.
if that was Valentine loading up guns, everybody would have been like, Valentine, you need to chill. We're gonna call the police. Ophelia
Yeah.
would be like, oh my god, he's going crazy.
Yeah.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. That's what I think about it as well. Like, I agree with you on that. But yeah, also like a lot of people commented like this did not age well, and yeah, like if this movie was made in 2024, the all the cast and the director and the writer is getting canceled.
Yeah, definitely. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, no, definitely they would be canceled. But once again, I think this is why people sort of hate people that are woke because they say, "Oh, this movie should be canceled. How dare they use the N word in 1983?" That's just how people talked. Like, and we don't need to get hung up on that. In fact, we should actually watch these movies, appreciate that, and learn from that
Mm-hmm.
because these white executives still say the N word behind closed doors. They still, believe that they are genetically superior. They still believe that they earned all the billions of dollars that they got, even if all they do is put in numbers on a computer screen. Like these things still exist. We just need to appreciate the honesty and openness of it. We shouldn't return to that. I don't want anybody saying, like, oh, cancel culture or woke culture has made people scared to say how they really feel. Yes, you should be scared to say how you really feel. You shouldn't just run around dropping the F word to gay people or the N word to black people. No, you shouldn't speak like that. But we should learn that people still act like that. These sorts,
Yeah.
we still live in an unjust world. At the beginning of the movie, they showed, people driving fancy cars and then homeless people, people's mansions, and then people living in a cardboard box. That's 2024 today. And
Mhm.
so if those conditions are still the same, a lot of people's thinking is still the same, even if their language is different.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, I do think like these movies should be watched today just to like see what it was like before then. And I guess like because also like most of the times we say things like, oh, it has become so much worse, like now we can't say anything. Or we also say like um yes, like there is still racism today, but did it get better from the time like from 1983? Yes, because we saw it in the movie that it was like really bad, really bad. So and this is a comedy movie, so they're trying to make it like funny. So
Mm-hmm.
this stuff shouldn't even be here, but even in like a comedy movie about race, it's here.
Yeah.
And like imagine just watching like a drama about racism from 1983 is going to be like far worse.
Right.
So yeah, I think it shows like how far we come, but also shows like how these things are still somewhat existent in the society. So it shows that sort of, I don't know, like progress, but then also the progress there is to be made, because obviously we're still not over certain things. We still do certain things. We still think certain things about like, minorities and certain groups and all of that. So,
Right.
yeah.
And I want to clarify what I said earlier about, like, I found the racist parts or the homophobic parts funny. It's because, you know, those parts sort of show what we think in the back of our minds. Like if two rich white guys pull up on me in a limousine and say, "We have whiskey," I'm thinking, "Oh, they want to fuck me. They're gonna fuck me."
Yeah. I'm
and
thinking the
these
same.
and these guys are probably gay. They're probably gay. I'm not going to use the F word, but you get what I'm saying. But in the movie, Eddie Murphy says, "Are these guys F words?" You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And yeah, and when you're a black person in corporate America and you're like, "I want to be the CEO. I'm going to be the president of this company one day." You're thinking in the back of your mind all the time, like, they don't want no niggers leading this company. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
just what you're thinking, and how they act towards you sort of validates that as well, because you see time and time again there hasn't been like a black CEO for a major American bank. There hasn't
Mm-hmm.
been a there's only been one black president, and there'll probably not be another one in our lifetime. You get what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
like, um, we see these things in front of us, but we sort of know in the back of our heads why they exist. And movies like Trading Places show us a glimpse in time where it was more open about why that happened. And when we look at now, we can still see why it happens, but the language has changed, making it harder to identify.
Yeah, and it's still like the same reasons because it's so much of like, I mean, I'm just gonna it's gonna be cheesy, but I'm just gonna say media because obviously it's more than media, but with media as well, it's sort of like gets ingrained in our minds certain ideas, wrong or right. So yeah, like I don't know. It's hard to get rid of that when it's like existent in in our little technological boxes under our hands basically.
Mm. Yeah.
So yeah, like even like our grandkids might be able to see Trading Places.
Mm. Now, are you
So
saying that's a bad thing or a good thing?
no, it's a good thing and a bad thing, I guess. I don't know because if they see it then and then still think the same thing as we do, it's very fucked up.
Uh, I
Or if
think
they still think the same things in the back of their heads, if this is still a thing, um, it's gonna be a classic. But if this is not a thing, and if they watch this and think like, what? Why is all of this happening to like this black dude? And I don't know if this is like too unrelatable, then maybe that's when a real progress has been made. I don't know.
I think this is my opinion. I I never I never hope for a future where there will be no racism in people's hearts or minds or souls, because even though I would like that to be, I kind of have given up on thinking that can be erased. What I think is more real is that the conditions that create the inequalities due to racism will be erased. So
Hmm.
if like our great grandkids are watching this movie and seeing that, yep, most of the black people are still poor and homeless and stuff like that, and all the people that are really rich are in all white country clubs where they put their right hand on their shoulders and reach in their pockets and give them hand jobs. Like if that's still the future, then yeah, they're gonna look at this movie and be like, "Yep, that's why." But if the conditions change, they'll be looking at this movie and saying, yeah, that was messed up. Like how we look at a movie about slavery now, right? You
Hmm.
look at a movie about slavery, and that's totally not our condition. And we can look at it and say that was then, this is now. But we look at Trading Places and say that was then, and that's still right now. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course, like you can't like erase history right now because it's always gonna be like written down. It's always gonna be in the reach of a click. So you can't erase that. But yeah, like you said, I agree. Like if you can say that that was effed up, so then maybe yeah, that's when things are getting better, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Well, overall, I enjoyed the movie. You got one more comment from Letterbox?
Oh, I just closed the tab.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, no worries, no worries. Well, my score is 6.5, 6.5, 6.5, somewhere in between there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sticking with 6, but yeah. I mean, if you're looking for like a kind of like a old timey, little inappropriate comedy movie, then watch this.
Yeah, I would say that. Little inappropriateness, light jokes, big themes, happy ending. You'll enjoy. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for listening to Simon and Acting Movie Reviews. We have this happening every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Looking forward to hearing people's comments. Any suggestions will be considered. We're looking at new movies all the time. We're going to start doing some more recent movies, but we're jumping all over the place, all over the timeline. We'll do something from 1945 and then 2024. It doesn't matter. So hit us up. Thanks for listening and peace.